Welcome back to The Morning Line. A true star was born in the Autumn Carnival just gone, with Pride of Jenni recording multiple Group 1 victories, especially the one at Randwick that won't soon be forgotten in the minds of racing fans, not just here but globally as well. And her owner, Tony Otterbury, has been very kind to give us his time this morning. Tony, a very good morning to you. What a ride she is taking you on, and as we've seen back at the trials or the jump outs on Monday, the story is not done yet.
Yeah, morning, Lewis. She's going fantastic. Still blown away from that Queen Elizabeth Stakes win that she had in April, and we've been on cloud nine ever since. And even to right now, I still can't believe what transpired on that day. But it certainly did happen, and it's been cloud nine ever since.
We'll touch on that amazing victory shortly, but I want to go back to where the story all began with her. Before we make it to her joining the Ciaron Maher stable, tell us about how you were into possession of Pride of Jenni and what she was like as a young filly. I heard she was quite flighty, and you changed a few stables around in order to get her going.
Yeah, that's correct. So I bought her as a yearling, and I really loved what I saw, and she was out of an O'Reilly mare. O'Reilly's the number one broodmare sire in New Zealand at the time, so he's even better than Zabeel on the stats, but they're close, very close, similar. So I think here in Australia they didn't notice the O'Reilly factor as much as if you are in New Zealand. So I got her at a pretty good price, I would have thought, and of course the Grand Dam won the Queensland Oaks. Vouvray. So that's what really got me. And then when I seen her, I said, this is a really nice type. So anyway, we broke her in, and she went over to David Bright Oak, and he was training her, and she was a little bit cantankerous there, and things weren't working out a great deal. And we took her, I think, to Wangaratta or Seymour for her first start, and she just went off her head a bit in the mounting yard, and she'd lathered up by the time she got to the starting gate, and she jumped out, she's thrown her head about and carrying on, and anyway, she ran, I think it was fourth at the time, and it was still a pretty good run considering what she was doing. So I asked David, let's bring her down to Mornington and race her at Mornington, because that's where you're at, and she hasn't got far to go. So of course she's gone to Mornington, and she's won the maiden with Jamie Carr on board, and she was quite not very nice to get on, to sit on and take out to the barriers and race. She still did the same thing, carrying on, and so we won that, and we took her back there 2 weeks later for a BM58. Jamie Carr on board again, and she did the same, and they actually this time had to take all the horses out of the mounting yard and then bring her in, and then Jamie Carr jumped on top, and then she went to the starting stalls, and off they went. So she got worse, she was getting worse. Jamie Carr's got off her after the win and said, I'm not getting back on this horse again. And I was going, geez, we've got a bit of work to do here. So she stayed with David for another run, where she ran at Flemington in a listed race, and she ran a second there, which was really credible. But I decided that maybe a country atmosphere will do her good, and I've taken her out of Mornington and sent her to Warrnambool, and we had her train there at Warrnambool for a little while. With Simon, and he was quite good. She ran a fantastic second in the Rose of Kingston, and the jockey at the time who was riding it was Declan Bates. So Simon Wild had put him on, and I was quite okay with that. The second run, she's won, and she just got nutted with Still a Star in that race, beat Mystic Journey, so there's a couple of really big names there. And I thought, well, we've got a very, very good horse here. Let's see if we can get it right. Next two runs, she wasn't running too well. She was running sixth, I think it was, sixth or seventh for Simon. Then I did notice that she was running with the tail tucked slightly under, and which meant that there was something maybe amiss in her back that, was unfoundable. We couldn't find it. So we gave her a spell, and then thought, well, maybe we can take her over to Ciaron Maher and with his group, and hopefully they can find an issue with her and maybe fix it and then go from there. So that's how she ended up at Ciaron Maher.
We're going to take a look at one of the first wins she had for Kieran Maher. It only took them 2 starts to get her back into the winner's stall. You mentioned changing it around to find the right program. I'm sure this win at Caulfield over 1,400 metres on the 17th of September there, 22, would have filled you with a bit of confidence that you'd made the right decision, pulled the right rein to send her to Kieran to get her back onto winning ways.
Yeah, well Kieran's, he's the master trainer at the moment, as far as I'm concerned, in Australia. They've got everything. They've got the sports science, they've got the feed right, they've got the training right. There's so much behind what they actually do. And it all comes back to the way they've structured the company. So this is the only, Kieran Maher's is the only organisation in the racing industry that's got a CEO. So they're running it like a corporation. And of course, the CEO, Ben Selinger, he's extremely good at what he does, and he comes from a sports science background. So he was president of the Athletics Association of Australia, I think it was. But so he's got a background in dealing with athletes and sports science that goes behind that, and I think they've been able to bring that across into the equine industry for the stable. So there's quite a fair bit there that's behind Kieran Maher, and I thought, well, if there's an issue, this bloke will find out what it is, and hopefully we can fix it. So yeah, her second start was 14. They raced at 1,200, then they raced at 1,400, and then after that, they put her in group races over 1,400 only because they wanted to keep her at 14, and I wanted to step her up to 16, but they said, well, we'll keep going 14 because we think we're on the right track, and you can't argue with that. And then she had, I think, another 3 or 4 runs at 1,400, but was in the placings or just out, and she didn't actually step up to 1,600 in that first prep.
Eventually, though, I think your wish was granted, going to 1,600 metres at the top level, because the first Group 1 victory was in the Empire Rose Stakes, which we're about to take a look at. As you mentioned, she'd been going so close in group races previously, went so close in a Group 1 Coolmore Classic there at Rose Hill back in March of that year. So this, as exciting as it must have been, may have also been a bit of a relief to knock off that win at the top level.
Eventually, yeah. I mean, she was turning 6, and to actually have finally a group win. So it wasn't even she hadn't won a Group 2, 3 or anything, or a listed race. I don't think at that time. Just listed place. So to actually get a Group 1 at 6, it's like incredible. And Kieran did set her up for that. I did ask her, it's a mare's race. This is, as far as I'm concerned, I'm into breeding game as well, and the Empire Race to me is the predominantly number 1 mares race in Victoria and possibly Australia. So yeah, she took that out, and we celebrated quite heavily that day and that night. So it was an incredible win. It certainly was.
As you should after any Group 1 win, celebrate accordingly. Let's touch on definitely the most famous of her victories. And Tony, I haven't been around a very long time, but for me, this is a race I will never, ever forget, just in the way that it played out. And this camera tells the whole picture. I wouldn't even dare to dream how many lengths in front she was. As much as this was exciting, was there any stage, and I know you've got a good relationship with Declan Bates, but was there at any stage a thought in your mind during this race going, she's going to stop and she has to come back to them, that Declan's gone too hard, or were you just so confident from the outset?
No, I wasn't confident. Let me tell you, you're never confident going into a Group 1. You're up against the best horses in Australia. So, but we certainly knew what she was capable of doing. Prior to that, we had her in the Australian Cup, and we probably rode her a little bit more conservative, trying to hold her back as much as we can, so she had something at the finish. So that was her first stint at 2,000. We learned a lot from that, because even going through the line in that Australian Cup, she was still motoring. So we realised then that, hey, she can do 2,000, no problem. So, of course, we've gone to the Queen Elizabeth, and she's jumped out and she's done what she normally would do. And strangely enough, the previous race, you had Willow on top of Mr. Brightside, who chased her in the Australian Cup, and this time it was detrimental to her finishing. I think he finished fifth. So he's obviously made the decision he's not going to go and chase her this time and maybe let somebody else chase her. And, of course, they've run like they would normally run in a 2,000-metre race. So your Saturday or, high-level racing, that's how they race. They'll jump out, they'll get a position, they'll settle, take a breather, and then they'll cruise up and start to take off. In the meantime, our girls just sort of sprinted away and, they ran what they would normally do, to tell you the truth. They weren't going slow. I think Via Sistina still ended up a second faster than, or maybe more, than her previous 2,000-metre win. So they were going at a normal pace, but our girl just absolutely sprinted. When I saw how far out she was in front, I've gone, I know she's got a huge heart, huge lung capacity. She ain't going to stop, but she'll slow down, because that's what's going to happen. So hopefully she gets out in front enough and she keeps going and that she doesn't slow down. She won't stop. So that's what I was always confident. There's not a hope in hell that she's going to stop. When she rounded the turn with 400 to go, and I've seen how far back the other guys were, I knew she wasn't going to stop. She was going to make it to the line. They're going to be chasing her, but they're not going to get her because she's way too far in front. But I was just in a shock, and I just couldn't believe it.
It was quite incredible, and I think from about the 300, maybe more, you knew that they were just running out of time to catch up. As we saw on Monday, she's back at the jump outs, and you've also posted some great footage on your social media page there on Twitter or X of her working on the treadmill. In terms of what she does leading into a preparation, I assume that she has to be given quite a bit of work leading into a prep due to that amazing racing style. She can't really go to the races underdone and work into fitness. She has to be quite forward. Is that the way that Kieran and yourself see it?
Well, I spelled her here at my property, and she came back and she still had quite a fair bit of muscles, and she wasn't over raced either. We only raced her 4 times in that prep, so she was still pretty solid. She hadn't been totally spent, where sometimes that happens with horses, and she still had quite a build up. Kieran gave her back to me in great condition from the races. She looked great, and we spelled her for about 4.5 weeks, I think it was. And she was still keeping that muscle condition on. So I think once they get to 6 years old too, you end up with a body that, it's basically, that's how it is, and you just need a little bit more to fine tune it. So yeah, look, she'll be cherry ripe for her first race. She'll be rock hard fit over the 1400. So Kieran knows what he has to do, and that's what he's already told me. He wants a rock hard fit for the Memsie. Now the Memsie's her first run in. She's never won first up. She just got nutted by Brightside in the last prep at Caulfield. Hopefully she can go one better this time and take out a win for us in her first race.
So first up into a Memsie there, Tony. Have you got some sort of a map for what her spring is going to look like? Is there a race you'd like to culminate in? Maybe a King Charles III or a Cox Plate? Or how are you seeing her scaffold of a spring look? Of course, with a lot of water to go under the bridge and a lot of things can change. But in an ideal world, how would you like to see her spring play out?
Well, I think her best distance is 1600. She just flies through 1,600 metres, and her last 200, she's still got quite a bit in her, and she's still going. So I've had a look, I've done the stats, and I think that the 1,600 is absolutely her distance, where the others are going to struggle to catch her. Now, if we even go back a little bit further, at Moonee Valley, there was a stock stakes, a Group 2, that she was beaten by Amelia's Jewel by about half a length, I think it was. But we actually were 0.02 of a second outside the course record. And she did all the work. So Amelia's Jewel got a nice little slipstream in behind us. If she had been a length further back, I don't think she would have caught us. But I gave plenty of accolades to Frosty on the ride. I couldn't believe how he rode her that day, and kept up behind her and just beating us. And she broke the course record. So at a 1600, as far as I'm concerned, she is really at her best. Now, I asked Karen to have a look, and we had a look, and the King Charles came up as a $5 million 1600 metre race. The Cox Plate, the 2,000 metre race with a $5 million race. So prize money is the same. Which is the best, the possibly easiest for her? And I'll put down that I think that the King Charles will be the one when you weigh up the two. Reason being is we sort of got an idea of who's going to be racing over a mile at the King Charles, but we're not sure about what's going to turn up in the Cox Plate. The Cox Plate boys are overseas trying to drum up some business and bring over some pretty good horses, so I don't know what's going to rock up there. But the King Charles is the one, and the following week is the Cox Plate. We're pretty sure that she can back up, as she did it in the spring, and we will be going to the Cox Plate, providing she's pulled up quite well from the King Charles.
Okay, there you have it. King Charles into a Cox Plate, perhaps on the back up. But of course, she's well in the market for both of those races, and deservedly so. Tony, she might not be your only top-line chance, though, throughout the spring. Of course, you've got a massive stable there with the Jenni horses, and one that caught my eye from Flemington only a few weeks ago was Jenni's Meadow, taking out the listed Taj Rossi Series final. I saw that she's in a few Group 1 races for fillies going forward. What are your thoughts on her? This was a pretty impressive win.
Yeah, look, we got her out to a mile finally, and she was brilliant. Great ride by Ethan Brown, absolutely a gun wide. He took her up on the inside, didn't cover hardly any ground at all. The others had to come down the outside. They covered a little bit more, and at this level you need a little bit of luck, and we had a little bit of luck this time. But there's plenty of times when you don't have luck, so I'll take it when it comes. And also ran second is one to keep an eye on too. It was very good. Look, we've got some great horses coming through, and I'm really pleased with what's going on at the moment. There's several more, and we've had a good season, which I will probably put up on X a little bit later on once the season's finished. We've had 95 runners throughout this racing season. We've ended up with 19 wins. 15 seconds, and I think about 11 thirds. So, and half and 50-50 was city as in country. So, yeah, we've had a really good year with the Jenni horses. So that's a pretty good strike rate, and we're extremely happy with that, Lewis.
Yeah, it would be for sure, and I'm sure there's a lot more to come this spring as well, Tony. Really appreciate your time this morning. Best of luck with all your chances going forward into the spring, and as a punter and a keen watcher of races, win, lose or draw, we know that each and every time Pride of Jenni goes around, it's going to be an absolute spectacle of a race, so I can't wait to see how the next few months unfold. Again, really appreciate your time this morning here on Sky One.
Good on you, Lewis. I'm looking forward to it too, mate. I can't wait. Thank you, buddy.
Unreal. Tony Otterbray there talking Pride of Jenni and some other key chances in his stable for the upcoming Spring Carnival. And as you heard, perhaps a King Charles III in Sydney into a Cox Plate the next week. Two of the key races for Pride of Jenni in the spring. We'll see what happens.